Brendan, you know, we saw Clare win the All-Ireland last year, but the league final just gone by. Tip and Kilkenny in it, you know, the old suspects, if you like, still there and going into the championship. Is that the way it's going to be?
It's hard to see, I suppose, after the way the league worked out for Tip and Kilkenny, with Tip and their struggles through the early stages. They had players coming back into it as well. The Clares and Dublins of this world will always not want to show their hand. Brian Cody has said out straight, I'm going to win every game. He's continued on that through his full tenure in management, and winning the league final for him and be delighted with it. Going into the championship, different matter, different pace to games, and obviously when it comes to knockout, then it all comes to who can keep their cool. But at the moment, it certainly would like to look like Tipperary and Kilkenny will have a big say where it goes this year.
And I suppose because of the structure of the championship, and as it used to be anyway in terms of Leinster, maybe Kilkenny need that little bit more than some of the Munster counties.
They do, yeah. There's no doubt the way the structure is this year, with the losing provincial, or the who don't get to their provincial finals end up all under one hat. So you're going to have 8 serious teams, and Kilkenny have learned a lesson last year when they didn't beat Dublin. What happened to them? They go through the backdoor system, and you have to have a tour of the country nearly before they get back to Croke Park, and they might never see it. So this year, for Kilkenny's first game against Offaly in Nolan Park, expect high intensity stuff from Kilkenny, and if they get over that to play Galway the same way, they will be driving at everything to make sure they go the right way through the door this time.
In the league final, we saw 2 of the traditional teams, if you like, Tip and Kilkenny, contesting that. So I would imagine, Cyril, it's the usual suspects that we would be looking at in the championship.
Yeah, well, as you say, look at the league final, and you go back to last year. Look at Cork. They drew the first game, just beaten the second game. There isn't a word about them. They're the 3 powers: Kilkenny, Tip, and Cork. Now Clare are up there. It's up to someone else. Now Dublin are still in a very good position. I expect Wexford to make a very good. They could cause a shock somewhere along the line this year. Waterford, lovely team, but ran into injuries, and then you have Cork, who are lying there quite easy, like not a word about them, but like they have been in the All-Ireland final. Limerick, maybe they're not in disarray, a little bit disrupted with Donald O'Grady gone, but they always believe they can rise their game to Tip. Now it's going to take something extra from Limerick this year, because they're playing Tip in Thurles, and even though Tip were beaten the last day, they are on a high.
Clare had the task of defending the All-Ireland title, not an easy thing to do, but still playing well. If you were setting up against Clare, how would you oppose them?
I think we saw it earlier on in the league, the way Tip played against them the first day wasn't the right way to do it. They had played a normal 6 backs with midfielders pushing up as your normal game, but the transition then to the second day against Clare was you played a sweeper system like Clare, and you try to make sure you have enough bodies around the middle third of the field to win as much possession as you can. It might sacrifice a goal scoring threat for you playing that kind of game, but I think if you try to play Clare with a straight 6, you will struggle, because they have huge energy in and around the middle of the field.
Obviously everybody that comes up against them now is going to be studying their style from last year, how to counteract them. How would you go about it?
Well, it's very interesting. That's a good question, Michael. Like, you even saw Tipperary last Sunday, like they played a double centre back. Brendan Maher played centre back, and Bergen went back in the centre as well. Now that's fine, and it's very good. It'll stop the goals going in, but it means up front your goal threat may be gone. You'll score points, no McGrath, swing around out the middle. You have to have it down to a very fine art. They nearly won the game doing that. Didn't threaten a goal. Kilkenny to me are the only team that's playing the old traditional way: 6 backs, 2 midfielders, 6 forwards. But they are winning at that level. And even from the Cork camp, I hear now they're playing with a double centre back as well, like having a sweeper, stopping the scores going in. It's interesting. Now you have to know what to do when you get the ball. The sweeper has to be a very good player, has to be able to lay it off, and then you have to play possession after that. So everyone has to be very, very tuned in, and the first touch has to be 100% exact.
We saw the system that Davy Fitzgerald played last year for most of the games with Clare, but now that's, I suppose, it's known, it's exposed. Can he do the same again this year?
You see, Michael, most of his games he played only one up front. Honan played up front on his own, and he pulled everyone back out, had a sweeper, and kind of swamped midfield and scored a lot of points from outside. Didn't, threaten goals, got some, but for the final, Honan wasn't on, and he played 2 up front. He went completely different formation. Davy was a bit ahead of the posse to Honan. He was dictating the pattern of play. People were trying to stop him. Now, while that still happens, if he's allowed to dictate the pattern of play to his team and people try to stop him, that'll suit him fine. Where the problem could come from Clare is if someone goes different and say, listen, I'm not going to worry about Clare, I'm going to set up my own team and maybe change the pattern for themselves. So it's going to be intriguing. Like, gone are the days of just getting the ball and hitting it. Everyone now is trying to place it, and you even saw the Tip goalie the last day. Most supporters would be thrilled if he buried the ball 100 yards away. There wasn't that many up front. He tried to place to wing back, just overhit it a small bit, all over the sideline, and Kilkenny got the winning point, and people would be down his back. But he was probably playing to instructions from the training camp, and that's the way the hurling is going.
One thing I suppose going into the championship this year is last year's championship was so good. Expectations are very high across the board.
Yeah, it was an amazing season last year where you had the relegation finalists ending up in an All-Ireland final. But I think all it shows is that every player that started training in January now and got under a weight sees the chance of winning an All-Ireland final. There's no longer the fear of Kilkenny beating you out the gate. That seems to have gone now. Whether we'll see as the championship goes on, whether the fear comes back or not. But certainly as a player and you're getting into your car to go to train, you're thinking this time you have a serious chance of winning the Lee McCarthy Cup. And that I think will drive the championship to being just as good this year as it was last year.
We saw those events you mentioned. We also saw Limerick, of course, winning the Munster Championship. But realistically this year, Brendan, who's really in with the shout?
Outside of the normal teams, would have said it would be Tip and Kilkenny. Then you've obviously Clare coming in with the momentum they've had from last year, and also the under-21 success. So these Clare players, I don't think will get overawed of winning the All-Ireland last year. They're used to winning year on year, and they'll try to bring that in as well. Outside of that, Cork will have learned an awful lot from last year's championship, and be interested to see now. When we spoke about sweeper systems earlier, where they'll employ one of those and the tactics Jimmy Barry will have. But outside of those teams, I think Dublin are going to be the ones that will have to really step up to the mark. They've won a national title in the league, they've won the Leinster Championship, still no All-Ireland final yet for Dublin. I think Dublin Hurling will need to get to an All-Ireland final this year to show progress. Pressure will be on the players to perform and get to that stage. I think if they can keep themselves anyway right through the year, they could be the ones that will upset the other teams.
This time last year, your own county, Galway, were one of the favourites for the championship. Now they have slipped down the pecking order. Why is that?
Well, I suppose it's inconsistency really. You don't know what Galway is going to turn up. It reminds me of a big jigsaw. They have the pieces if they can put them together. On a given day, they're capable of playing and beating anyone. Just that you don't know what Galway is going to turn up. But if they get, now maybe if their game plan, if they get that right or have a game plan, keep to it or else it's kind of change as the game goes on, they're capable of beating anyone, but they're just not consistent. And you saw it again during the league, one game good, terrible, another game bad. That's the biggest problem they have. But like no team going out against them, they'll be all wary of them. And then when you lose, you can say, here's the same old problem again. And it is a problem. But I suppose like Cork are a little bit like that as well, have great hurlers, but a little bit inconsistent, not doing it every day. Like until Galway win a championship, this team will be still kind of saying there'll be a lot of ifs about it, and they have a tough draw because like if getting over the first round, which they should, they're still probably going to play either Kilkenny or Offaly. That should be Kilkenny. Now that'll be a dinger of a game. Kilkenny will be hot favourites, but you'll find that that'll be touch and go between Galway and Kilkenny.
Give me a long odds bet. Somebody who will give you a run for your money in the championship this year.
A long odd bet. If Limerick can't get out of Semple Stadium this year, they will go a long ways to doing something in the championship. But it's that first game is going to be the key thing for Limerick. If it's the same Limerick team as I played against last year, with the same drive and focus and organisation, then they're going to have a serious say. But what's happened to them over the last couple of weeks, the Donald O'Grady thing, that's going to be really what's tipping them in the balance of having a disaster of a season or really launching into it for the rest of the summer.
Right, sir, we know who the main contenders are going to be. We've talked about that earlier. But give me one kind of longish odds. Let's say a kind of a 6-1 that might give you a run. Yeah,
well, last year my outsiders were Clare, if you know what I mean. Now, they're up there this year, the top, and you talk about, say, Kilkenny, Tip, they're all up there. Cork have slipped into the long grass. They're 6 or 8-1, there isn't a word about them. Now, Dublin, there'll be a lot to talk about, but a team I saw earlier on, and they haven't been doing it, but to me they've a lot done, and they could cause ripples if they get a run the championship, would be Wexford. To me, the two I'd be thinking, and they could be 12 or 16-1. But Cork and Wexford to me are kind of the outside bets, because Cork are 8-1. Remember now they were in the All-Ireland last year, and within the puck of a ball, 30 seconds of winning it.